iostudy.net.
Hello everyone, this is Danielle, and today in English grammar we're going to talk about the grammar rules for using in, at, and on. Place 1. So as you can see here in our mind map, we have 4 things to talk about. First we have in, at, then on, and finally we compare all of them. So let's first start with the grammar rules for using in. So in using in, we can say in a classroom, in a garden, and in a building. So let's see some examples of these. In a classroom. For example, the teacher is talking to the students in the classroom. Okay, so now we have in a garden. Let's see some examples. There are many flowers in the garden. So as you can see here, we're using in to talk about the garden. Next, in a building. There is no one in the building. So here we used in to talk about the building. So here are some examples for using in for a place. So now we can go down to using at. We can use at in these 3 instances. Number 1, at the bus stop. 2, at the traffic lights. And 3, at the end of the street. So let's see some examples here. At the bus stop. For example, who is that man standing at the bus stop? Now we have at the traffic lights. For example, turn left at the traffic light. And finally, at the end of the street. For example, Angela's house is the white one at the end of the street. So as you can see here, we used at for talking about place in these 3 instances. Okay, so now we will go over to look at how to use on when talking about place. So we can use on in these 3 ways. On the floor or on the ground. On the ceiling. And on page 7. So now let's see some examples here. On the floor or on the ground. For example, I sat on the floor. Now an example of on the ceiling. There's a dirty mark on the ceiling. Last example for on page 7. You'll find details of TV programs on page 7. So as you can see here in all of these examples, we're using on to talk about place. Okay, so now let's go to compare the 3. So we have in and at, in and on at and on. So let's first talk about in and at. A couple of examples here. There were a lot of people in the shop. And go along this road, then turn left at the shop. So as you can see here, we're using the same sentence, but in both sentences we can use in and at in different ways. Next, we have in and on. For example, there is some water in the bottle, and there is a label on the bottle. Finally, we have at and on. For example, there is somebody at the door, and there is a notice on the door. Okay, so here's your completed mind map for in, at, and on when talking about place. So once you're comfortable with this, we can go ahead and click here for the outline. So here's the outline. You can go to prepositions and in, at, on, place 1. So here is your outline for in, at, and on, place 1. You can scroll through this and read through it for more information and to find further examples of sentences using in, at, and on grammatically correct. So once you're finished reading through this, you can click here to take the test to see how much you know. So in the next video, we will take the test together. And thanks for joining me in this video where we talked about the grammar rules for in, at, and on. I will see you in our next video. Thank you. Goodbye.